So let's dive deep today into something we all sort of recognize. That stereotype of the grumpy old person. The idea that getting older means getting, miserable and difficult.
Right. It's this really persistent cultural image. The neighbor you can't please, that relative is always complaining. It paints aging as this inevitable slide into negativity.
Exactly. But that's what this deep dive is about. We're going to look at the science and really challenge that whole idea.
We are, because the research actually points in a completely different direction. There's a fascinating scientific twist here. For most people, aging brings positive changes emotionally.
Okay, positive changes. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
The research often mentions the big 5 personality traits, right? Openness, conscientiousness.
Extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Yeah.
And the data on what happens to these traits over time is pretty compelling.
So what does it show? Do people really get grumpier?
Quite the opposite, actually. Normatively, people become significantly more agreeable. That means, kinder, more trusting, easier to connect with. And maybe even more importantly, neuroticism tends to decrease consistently. People generally become more emotionally stable, less anxious, less prone to anger.
So, calmer, gentler. That really flies in the face of the stereotype.
It really does. It's less about decline and more like an emotional refinement and adaptive shift.
Okay, but why does this happen? Is it just, life experience? Or is there something happening in the brain?
Oh, it's definitely biological too. Researchers talk about something called the positivity effect.
Positivity effect.
Yeah. It essentially means that as we age, our brains get better at emotional regulation. Older adults tend to selectively focus their attention and memory on positive information and sort of filter out the negative.
Interesting. So the brain isn't just passively taking things in, it's actively managing its own mood. How does that work, like on a neural level?
Exactly. It's active regulation. It involves improved cognitive control, mainly from the prefrontal cortex, that's our brain's executive control center.
Right.
It gets better at dampening the response of the amygdala. The amygdala is like the brain's alarm bell for threats and negative emotions.
Okay. So the prefrontal cortex acts like a kind of emotional brake.
That's a great way to put it. An experienced driver applying the brakes appropriately. It means older adults are often much better at bouncing back from a negative experience than younger adults are.
Okay, if the science points towards aging making us calmer and kinder, why on earth does the grumpy old person stereotype even exist? It's so pervasive.
Well, that's really the crux of the issue. The stereotype persists because people often mistake symptoms of illness or distress for normal aging.
So the grumpiness isn't normal aging, it's a sign something else is wrong.
Precisely. Sudden, dramatic personality shifts are never normal. They're usually red flags for underlying problems, things like depression, perhaps early dementia, or even the effects of a stroke.
And I suppose major life stressors play a role too, things that aren't necessarily diseases.
Absolutely. Psychosocial factors are huge. Think about bereavement overload.
Bereavement overload.
Yeah, the cumulative impact of losing multiple loved ones, a spouse, friends, siblings, in relatively quick succession, that can lead to really prolonged grief and isolation.
That makes sense. And losing independence must be incredibly frustrating too.
Definitely. Things like retirement, if it means a loss of purpose, or giving up driving or needing help with daily tasks. That loss of control can absolutely fuel frustration and irritability. These aren't personality traits emerging, they're reactions to difficult situations.
Okay, so we have pathological conditions, psychosocial stress. What about just plain physical issues?
Big factor. Chronic pain is a major one. Think arthritis, constant back pain. Pain and depression often go hand in hand, creating this downward spiral that really impacts mood.
And sometimes it's something acute, right? Something sudden.
Yes. For instance, a simple urinary tract infection, a UTI, can cause sudden confusion, agitation, even aggression in older adults. It looks like a personality change, but it's an infection.
Wow. And medications, I imagine that's a factor too, with older adults often taking multiple prescriptions.
Huge factor. Polypharmacy risk. Drug interactions or side effects can directly cause confusion, anxiety, mood swings. It can look exactly like the stereotype.
So the key takeaway here is that this irritability, this grumpiness, it's usually not the person's core personality changing with age, it's a distress signal.
Exactly. It's a symptom of maybe pain or grief or an infection or a medication issue or social isolation, often interconnected problems.
So for you, the listener, if you see this kind of persistent negativity in an older person you care about,
The advice is really to shift your perspective. See it compassionately. Avoid confrontation. Think like a detective.
Look for the underlying cause.
Yes. Help investigate potential medical issues. Is there pain? Could it be an infection? And definitely pay attention to medications. Are there side effects? Could interactions be the problem? Ruling out or treating these things often resolves the mood issue.
Right, because the natural tendency of aging, according to the science, is actually towards more emotional stability, more kindness.
That's what the bulk of the research suggests. So persistent negativity is a cue that something needs attention, something often treatable.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave everyone with. We've kind of debunked the grumpy old person as likely being a symptom of something else. It makes you wonder, what other stereotypes about getting older might actually be signs of unaddressed problems rather than inevitable parts of aging?
That's a really important question to mull over. What else are we misattributing?
If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please take a second to like and subscribe. Your support means everything to me.